Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Art 186, Computer Graphics with Adobe Illustrator for the spring semester 2022. Where we left off on Tuesday is that I was trying to be clever and show you a new kind of tool. It's not new, it's actually an old tool using the Pathfinder tool. And again, where you find the Pathfinder panel, it's not up over here by default, but it's under the window menu, and Pathfinder is down here. Okay, so this is the end result to the left. You'll notice I have a triangle and it's broken down with these shapes inside. Now I could draw inside now if I wanted to. Again, that's probably a better way to work. But if I want to subdivide the triangle and fill it with different colors, this is what I can do. I used the wrong tool. I thought I was selecting the correct one where it says outline. I don't want to do that. I want to divide. So to do that, you select, I just click and drag around these shapes. Notice that I just simply have paths on top of a triangle. It can be any shape, it really doesn't matter. And I go ahead and I select divide, and you'll see that it gets rid of those extraneous lines that lie outside of the triangle, which is really kind of nice. So there you have now a perfect fit. Okay. And now what it does is it takes all of that and it creates a group. If I use the group selection tool now, and I select any one of these elements, you can see that as a shape is selected, instead of the pink fill, I'll go ahead and I'll fill it with blue. And maybe I'll select this one down here and I'll fill it with a nice orange or something. Okay. And I can select this one and we can fill it with a green or a purple or something, who knows. Okay. And there you have it. Now, if you tried to draw inside and subdivide it and stuff, that might be kind of difficult. But this is a much easier way to go. I think using the, it's really an old system using Pathfinder and select divide. The other features up here in Pathfinder where it says, if you want to create a compound shape and you want to add to the area, or you want to subtract the front or a difference or that sort of thing, have now all been replaced with the shape builder tool. But this is still kind of unique. This one here, the divide and outline too. You can select the, combine shapes and select outline and it will outline them, but you just can't fill them. Okay. So another thing that I forgot to mention, whoops, I don't want that. I want, on Monday's demonstration, is to show you there's two more tools to look at here. There are the scissors down here, which are underneath the eraser tool, and the knife tool. So the scissors tool can be used on a stroke or on an anchor point. Okay. So the way that they have us do it is if I go ahead and I click with the scissors tool, click anywhere on that path. And you'll see that it adds up an anchor point, but it's actually two anchor points. So now if I come back and I use the direct selection tool and I click on one, you'll notice that it's now been cut and broken. I can click on this one and I can move that one up like so. Okay, to complete a completely different shape. But now you'll notice it's not a complete shape, it's broken. Well, I can join that together. They have something called a join tool, but I think it's just as easy to remember J for join. So now if I click and drag to select both of these points and hit Command J, it joins them together. So now you have a new shape. Now what I can do is as they've done in the exercise, we can use these little devices in here to create nice little curves or whatever. And you've got, in just a few minutes, really interesting shape with not a lot of muss or fuss, and it's drawn very accurately. Okay, So that is the knife tool, or no, the scissors tool. Now we're going to look at the knife tool. The knife tool is, again, hidden under there. And what they wanted us to do was to simply take this shape and click and drag like so. And it looks like you've done absolutely nothing. But in fact, when we select the shape, the selection tool, oh, come on. Let me try again. Let me go ahead and select the shape and let me try again with the knife tool. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag in here. And now you can see that it's actually broken down into two shapes. So what I can do is I can take with the move tool, I can select that one and move it, and you can see that it's cut, handmade. I don't like using it that much unless you have maybe a Wacom tablet and you have more control over the path. I would probably instead use the shape builder tool to do that. I would have drawn an ellipse on top of that and then subtracted that shape. But again, what makes it nice is that I can take this shape and I can make it a different color. Now, the problem with it though is to reconfigure it, unless it's bigger or smaller, notice what happens. It cuts all the way through it. So maybe you would want to make a copy of it and put it on top or something like that, or draw inside the shape. That would be another option. You have to think about it. And again, there is not a single way or even two ways of doing these things. There are multiple ways. The point is just to learn all the tools. And then as you're building or creating your drawing, your illustration, your design, think about it. Which procedure that maybe you had done in the lessons would work better if you followed a different process. Okay, use different tools. It's totally up to you. So I forgot to use those two, but that's it. So now we're going to move on to the curvature tool. Okie doke. So the curvature tool is the one right over here. And I'll look at the end over here. And you can see that we have a little graphic design behind the word camp, some different possibilities for logos. Okay, so let's start with the top one here, move down to creating the little flames. I don't like the way that they did the flames using the pencil tool, but I'll show it to you anyway. And then we create a little teardrop shape in the middle. And there's a very easy way of doing that too. So let's look at the start file. And to get things going, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the curvature tool. And I'm going to zoom in on this logo up here. Okay. So if I click out here, and I click here, and I click down here, notice that as I click, on the third click, it begins to curve. So I want it to curve up a little bit, then I move over here. Now, the mistake that I've made is that I have a fill. I don't want a fill. I'm going to turn that off. Okay. Now I can come over here. And I'm going to click up here and move down like so. And then back up like so. Now, while I'm making the shape, or even afterwards, I can always click on here to reconfigure it. If I want to finish the shape, or if I want to get rid of one of these points, I just simply select it and hit the delete key. So maybe that would be a better way to go. If I want to add a point, I just move inside between two anchor points and I click. Okay, so I have this is kind of like our little hills back here. that we're going to create. I'll move this over, and now we're going to create the paths underneath. Now, what I want to do is I want to move these points in on top of the line here. There we go. So I get a nice clean selection here. Now, you'll notice that it's, because I haven't deselected the tool, it's ready to continue to draw. But if I hold down the Command key, Control key on the PC, and I click, then that ends the path. So I'll select the tool again. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a different one. I'm going to go ahead and click here. Let's go ahead. Oh, there we go. I'm going to click right here. I think this seems like a pretty good spot. Click, click. And then we're going to go back here like so. And we're going to go back again, really like so. Really tight curve. And then we're going to bring it out like so. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and move these again over the path. I just find that this works better for me rather than try to struggle with an existing path. Okay. And if I want, I can move this down like so. I can move these down. Any number of ways that we can reconfigure this thing. Let's pull this in a little bit. That looks okay, I suppose. Actually, these should be drawn over just a bit more. So let me go ahead and click here, move it over a bit. Let's move this down a little bit like so. Let's move this over a little bit. Again, it's nice, you know, just play with it until you get the overall look that you're going for. That looks much better. There you go. Okay. So with that completed, again, hold down the Command key, Option key, or Control key on the PC, delete it. I still have, or it ends the path, and it still have the curvature tool selected. So now what I can do is I can come up here and I'm going to click. And I'm going to click down here. I'm going to click here. And I'm going to click here to create the rest of this path. And then I'm going to go ahead and, again, manipulate my points a little bit until I get a look that I think is suitable. Okay. Close to what they have, not exactly, but you get the idea. Hold down the Command key on the Mac, deselect. So now what I want to do is behind it, I want to create some mountain shapes. Okay. But even though this is the curvature tool, I can create pointed elements to this. So to do that, I click. Whoops, I'm going to go ahead. I didn't want to see that by clicking on an existing path, you activate it. I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to click just below it. And then up here, if I click and I drag, notice that it makes a curve. I don't want that. I can always go back and change it, but it's easier if I go back and I just double click, and now it turns it into a corner point. So now I can go back here and click here. I can click up here and let's double click. Come up here, there, double click, come down here and click again and come up here, again, double click, and then come up here, double click, and then come down here. This one isn't, there we go. And come down here and double click. Whoops, see, I accidentally activated another path. I didn't want to do that. Hold down the Command key, end it, come back here and click. Like so. And with that selected, I can just come in here and I can move it around. Once it's been created, You can then move it on top of an existing path, but otherwise it's kind of difficult. Probably moved all of that up too high, but you get the idea, okay? Here's my little mountain shape back here, and let's move this one over here like so. So there's the mountain behind it. Again, to end it, hold down the Command or Control key, click, and I'm done. So, I screwed up here. Let's go back here. Select that point. Select this point and hit delete. And double click on this one, and I fixed it. Again, you can't really make mistakes. You can always go back and edit. Okay, so we have the beginnings of a really nice logo here. You know, so the next thing that they want us to do is something that I've already shown you, but it bears repeating. I'm going to go back and I'm going to select this path. And I'm going to go ahead and with paths, I'm going to go ahead and bring them open. It's actually the stroke. And I'm going to deselect dash line because what they've given us is just a straight line. But we can create any number of complicated dash lines from here. And you simply do that by clicking here that says dash line. And then you need to start a dash, a gap, a dash, and a gap. And if you want further subdivisions, you can do that a couple of times. Then the next thing is that you have these little icons here. Do you click here or do you click here? If I click here, you'll notice that it's equidistant. But if I click here, you'll notice that it's offset a little bit, the division. Really quite nice. And the numbers that I put in here for the dash and gaps are the ones that the book gave me, okay? But the next thing that I want to do is I want to take that selection now. I want to move over the center, and with Smart Guides, you'll notice that I have, as soon as I move over the center, it highlights. Now, from you seeing my screen, it's very subtle. But now what I want to do is I want to use the Rotate tool. I'm going to move over the center and hold down the Alt or Option key, depending on which platform you're on. Come on, there we go, there's the center. And that brings that up, and let's select 15 degrees. And let's look at the preview. Nope, wrong way. So I'm going to go negative 15 degrees. Now let's go ahead and preview. That's what I want. But instead of okay, I'm going to select copy. And now I can hit Command D. Just keep hitting Command or Control D until I get the desired result. A very quick way of putting something together that otherwise would take a lot of work. So the Curvature tool, relatively new to Illustrator, is really, really a nice tool. Okay. The last thing that they want us to do here is to move this below, select the whole thing as a group if we wanted to, but what they did is they took the bottom half of this and we go ahead and with let's select a rectangle tool. And if I click and I drag across here, notice that I still have dash lines on. I don't want that. And I'll go ahead and I'll fill it just for the heck of it, just so you can see what's going on. And then I'll select these shapes up here. Okay, so if I select all of these, I'll hold down the Shift key and click and drag across. Oh, come on. I'm going to deselect. Wrong tool. There we go. Hold down the Shift key with the selection key selected. And I want to add to the selection. And now what I can do with the Shape Builder tool, again, it's just a way of doing this, is hold down the Option key. And I want to, let's see what I'm going to get here. I'm going to no, I didn't want to do that. That's not working here. So that's not a solution that I want. Let me go back and group everything. Let's do that instead. Let's take this and delete it for the time being. And I'm going to select all of this and group it, Command G, and see if this will give me the desired result that I want. So I'll come up here and I'll click on drag and I'll hold down the Shift key to make sure that it's all selected. And then I'm going to go ahead and with the Shape Builder tool. No, come on. It's not working for me. So I had problems this morning with my class. Now I'm having problems again. Let's try again. What's going on here? So all of that's selected. Let's try again. I'm going to go ahead with the shape built with the rectangle tool, click and drag here. There we go. Let's go ahead and fill it just for the heck of it. We can see what we're doing. And maybe, again, we're going to say under stroke, I'm just going to say none for the heck of it. And maybe that will help me out. Don't know sometimes. Whoops, stroke. I don't want any stroke. Now, hold down the Shift key and select this group. There we go. So now it's selected. And now let's try again and use the Shape Builder tool. And if that doesn't work for us, no, it's not working for us. So, it didn't work. Let me undo that again. Let's try again. I'm going to select it all. Let's go over that, select. I don't know why it's not working. This is the sort of problem that I had this morning. Wondering why things that I know that should work aren't working. I don't want that. Come on. I don't want to make a rectangle. Oh, no wonder, the wrong tool selected. There we go. So I've got that selected. And now let's try again with the Shape Builder tool. And if I hold that, and I hold down the Option key, and I click, no, still there. So maybe when I selected this, oh, I know why. Never mind. I had the group selection tool selected. I didn't want that. So hold on a minute. Let's try one more time. Got that one. And I'm going to deselect, hold down the selection tool, click here. There we go. Now the bottom is selected. Also hold down the Shift key and select the rest of this. Now let's try. There we go. Just have to make sure that when you hover over these, you get the distinction between the shapes. And I'm going to, again, hold down the Option key, click and drag, and that gets rid of that. So let's do that again. Let's try to get rid of these two. And it doesn't like that. So let's select again. And let's select these guys again. And let's select the Shape Builder tool. Let's hold down Option key, and we can get rid of those. And now I can go ahead and I can take the whole overall shape that I created here, and I probably should zoom out and make sure that everything is selected and in a group. So I'll make, including the little starburst over that, I'm going to hit Command G. So the whole thing is a group. And now I can take and I can move it down. Hold down the Shift key. And notice that it's in front of it. So I need to bring up layers. And what I need to do is I need to drag it down, drag this down. Instead of on the top, I want it to be below everything. And now it's behind the logo camp, and we have a completed logo. Really very nice. Not too many mistakes, but enough to be kind of humbling. So the next step, they want us to now switch gears, and instead of using the curvature tool, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the pencil tool. The pencil tool I have over here. Okay, and normally what you see here is either I want the pencil tool here. It's underneath the brush tool. And if you don't see that, then go underneath the brush tool, hold it down, and you might see something a little bit different. There's other variations in here, most of which I don't use. They're nice, I guess, but sometimes you just don't need them. So now what I'll do is I'll zoom in here, and we're going to do a couple of things. I'll start by clicking here, and we're just going to hand trace this shape. Now, I would much rather, for a more accurate shape, use the curvature tool or the pen tool. But they're suggesting with the current settings that if I click here and I drag slowly around, and even though my hand isn't really steady, it will curve around and it will, make things much nicer. Look at how poorly I'm drawing this thing. I'm left-handed. I'm trying to draw with my mouse in the right hand. Come back to where I started, and that looks horrible. That's what I'm talking about. I just hate that. So what I'm going to do is to show you how I would do it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select, again, the curvature tool. And let's get rid of those guys. I'm going to click here. We'll click here. And as soon as it fits the underlined path, I'll click there. And I click here. And click up here. Click here. Click here. Click here, and then here. And I'm going to click over here. And then move the mouse down here, and then here. That looks much better. And now what I can do is I can double click on this top one here, make it come to a nice point. We can move it into position. I can come up here and I can move my curves, and you get much more elegant curves by doing it this way. And again, this comes to a curve and I want it to come to a point. So I'll double click on that one. I'll double click on this one. This is how I would do it. It didn't take me any longer. It's much more accurate. And I'm really set to go. So the curvature tool, I think, is the way that you would want to go, or later next week when we begin working with the pen tool. Okay. Again, they want us to show you how to create this shape here using the pencil tool. So I will do it best I can, but again, it's not my desired way of doing that. So I'm going to click and drag around this curve. When I get here, I'm going to hold down the shift key and drag across. And by holding down the shift key, it makes a straight line, and now I can let go of the shift key and then continue to draw and make my curve line. And then when I reach this point, hold down the shift key again, draw across, and release. Again, it's not really that accurate. This is how I would do it. I'm going to go ahead and undo. What I would do is I would go ahead and I would use the rectangle tool, and I would make my rectangle here like so. And these are really fat strokes. What I can do though is I can switch to the direct selection tool, and I'm going to actually add anchor points. So underneath here, which is normally the pen tool, I'm going to say anchor point tool, add anchor point, and I'm going to add one here. and I'm going to add one here. Now with the direct selection tool, I'm going to click and drag like so. And then I can click and drag again. Oh, come on. I want to use, I'm going to click and drag to move this into position. You can see that it comes to a sharp point. But then what I can do with the under the pen tool, what I can do is I can use the anchor point tool. And now over each anchor point, I can click and drag, and I can make a nice curve. Do the same over here, click to activate the anchor point, and then click and drag. You know, if you go in the wrong direction, and just move it up in the correct direction, and you're set to go. Much better. Again, I might do it a little bit differently, but I think it's better than using the silly pencil tool. Okay, so another way of doing this, let's try a different way. That's one way. We want this curved here. So I'm going to try the curvature tool this time. Let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, double click, double click, double click, double click, and go to the top and double click. Whoops, let's go back again. Double click. There we go. Now I can click here and I can pull out a nice smooth curve. I can click here, which adds another point and makes a nice smooth curve. That I think is the best system, just using the curvature tool again, like I did for the flames up here. Okay, so there are, you know, a variety of ways of doing it. I would try, you know, multiple ways. And when you arrive at a solution that you think is the most elegant, go with that. Okay. As I said, there isn't any one way of doing this. So let's go back over. We have our campfire thing here. And we're going to move these into position. So let's take the move tool. And let's take this one. Let's move it into place. And let's select both. And let's move it over. Again, I probably should have hit the Option key to make a copy of it. Put it into position. And now we can go back over here, okay, with our, to deselect, select a particular shape, use the swatch panel. We'll go ahead and make sure that I have fill selected. We'll fill it with a nice brown. And now we'll take this shape and we'll fill it with a nice red. Now we need that little, whatever you want to call it, center hotspot over the center here. Now they want to show you how to break a shape apart and how to put it back together. I'm going to show you my way of building the little teardrop here that I think works much better than theirs. And then I'll go back and I'll do it the way that they did it. Okay. So I'm going to use the direct selection tool to be able to select the top anchor point. Circles are comprised of 4 anchor points. And I'm just going to click up here and hold down the Shift key as I move it so that it moves it straight up, like so. But you'll notice by default, this is a curved point. And later on, you may want to keep it curved. And I can click and drag and I can move it like so. And we can do any number of things to it to customize the curve. But now what I'm going to do is select anchor point tool and click over the anchor point once. Now it turns it into a corner point. And I have a perfect teardrop shape that I can now resize and make a copy of it and put it wherever I want. Now, notice that as I resize it, it's not resizing the path, but I probably want to do that. You have to decide, you know, do you even want a path around it? Or instead, do you want to, when it shrinks down, does it look a little bit unsightly having it that size? So if I leave it this size, it works just fine, sort of. Now I need to bring it to the front. So a good way of doing that is to go to Object, Arrange, and say Bring to Front. Now it's in front of everything and I can move it over. Okay, but it's too big. Well, I would rather use a thinner path. So what I need to do over here is I need to, where I have the fill and stroke appearance, not there, I don't want that. Let's go ahead and select the properties here. Scale corners, I want to scale strokes and effects as well. So now when I shrink it down, come on. There we go. It's also shrinking the thickness of the path to make it look proportioned correctly to everything else. And if I'm good with that, we can go over and you can do the same and add it over here. And again, to keep this one intact, hold down the Option, Alt key on the PC and drag it over, and I have a copy of it. And there you go. Zoom in. And with that selected, I can hold down the Shift key and maybe the Option or Alt key and shrink it down a little bit so that maybe if I want that there, I can put that there as well. I don't think they ask for that, but you get the idea. That, you know, anytime you need multiple of an object, you can always copy paste, or it's much easier to hold down the Option key on the Mac, the Alt key on the PC and drag, and you have an exact copy of it. Now, notice what they did with their logo. They left the little curved points or the curved corners. I don't know. It's an aesthetic thing. I don't think it works that well, but that's, you know, up to you. I think coming to a sharp point works a little bit better. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. We're not, you know, filling up the whole hour, but I was able to amend some of my mistakes. But, well, let me go back to the teardrop shape again. Let me go ahead, since we have the time, and I'll show you. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Option key. Let's bring it up here, move up, and zoom in a little bit. So with this selected, we can go ahead and we can, again, if we want to break it apart, again, you use not this, we're going to use the scissors tool. And I'm going to click over the anchor point this time. It breaks it apart. Now I can go ahead with the direct selection tool. You can see that now it's changed the overall settings of this, and I can do it like so. Move it across like so. And then if I want to join these together, there is underneath the pencil tool, it is the join tool. It's relatively new. And when you click it and drag across, it joins them as so, like so. Doing it my way, I feel I have more control over it, because what it does, if I do it a different way, if I select both of those points as I did before and I hit Command J, it joins it, but it doesn't actually take the points and combine them. So there's two different ways of working. Okay, and each one can be valid, but I don't use the join tool all that much. I usually kind of plan ahead. And again, when I do it across like that, notice how it comes across, and we can use the direct selection tool and we can come down here and, but see what I have here? This works kind of funky. So now what I need to do is I need to select the entire shape and I need to reconfigure it. But what I can do is I can squash it I can stretch it until I get something that I'm happy with, or I can hold down the Shift key and I can hold down the Option or Alt key and I can resize it that way. Okay, so I did show them all to you today. I went back to the last lesson that we were working on and showed you how to use those tools. That's pretty much it for today. There we go. I got everybody here. That's okay. Any questions? We're all done for today. Next week, I'm going to start using the path tool. So we'll work on the next lesson. In the meantime, finish up your mask. Make sure that you're caught up on lessons. What else? In addition to that, the next assignment is going to be to do the skateboard deck, and you'll do 3 versions of it. There is some good examples on my website of what other students have done in prior semesters. There is a video that I will be showing you on Simone Legno, an Italian who lives in the States, whose designs look like they were done in a Japanese style. You may, and it is the brand of his work is called Tokidoki. That's how I came up with the name. And there was an old video on lynda.com where she interviewed him, and you actually get to see him put together a skateboard deck. So it might give you some ideas. In addition to that, we'll look online again and we'll do a Google search for artistic or decorative skateboard decks to maybe inspire you to give you some different ideas for what you're going to do. And that will be our next assignment. Okay, so you might want to be thinking about that, especially if you've already completed the mask assignment. And my hope is to get most of the mask assignments that have been turned in to get them graded this weekend. Okay. Any questions before we leave today? Yes, no? No? Okay, then we're all done. I'm going to say goodbye, pause the recording, and we'll put it up. Okay. See you guys later. Have a good weekend.